Well, at least I probably won't have to answer any stupid questions today about, like, what is it, just particularly cold where you're at? Yes, my friends, it is. Glitch dash. What's up, Glitch? Yay. What a grim day. What a truly grim day. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button as you're rolling in. As you're rolling on into the stream, finding your way over here. As soon as we get enough people in here chatting, we're going to start talking about the murder, the extrajudicial killing, whatever you want to call it, that transpired in Minneapolis earlier today. And hopefully I won't have to deal with too many tyrant defenders, but we'll see. To me, if you're a Second Amendment loving Republican conservative, it seems like this is the most apt time for you to jump ship ever. At least with Renee, listen, at least Renee Good, you could at least say, like, well, she was in a moving car and the agent was technically at the front of that car. I still think that you can see her in the video turning the wheel away from the officer. She clearly was not going to hit him. Her death was equally unjustified. But at least there, the Republicans, like she was a lesbian and all that, this was a straight white fucking VA nurse. This was a straight white VA nurse that was exercising his Second Amendment right to bear arms. He did not draw on a cop, and they did not fire their gun until after his gun had been secured and taken off of his person. You support ICE and Trump, then you support Nazis and fascists at this point. I wouldn't have said that a year ago, by the way. Don't think I'm one of those like crazy Hillary Clinton liberals that thinks that everything with a Democrat next to its name is good. Okay, I'm not. A year ago, I would have said, okay, well, whatever. We don't know what he's going to do yet. Hell, maybe you're right for supporting him. I don't know. A year ago, that would have been my line. Now, you are a supporter of Nazis. I'm sorry. This is what the Nazis did. They went door to door looking for the wrong kind of person in that country for them to lock up, right? They went door to door looking for people they could lock up. They shot people in the street who openly dissented or attempted to record the actions of the Gestapo and the state police. They moved the people that they were detaining in their door-to-door arrest campaigns to massive rural concentration camps. These are the tactics of ICE. These are the tactics of Border Patrol. These are the tactics of the Trump administration in his second term. These are not the tactics of Trump in his first term, by the way. This isn't how Trump did things back then. This is an escalation. And the fact that MAGA can't recognize it tells me that a lot of you guys are politically unserious people. How do you know you're a woman? Because being referred to as a man makes me feel uncomfortable. I mean, that's just one of the many things, but like, which one do you want? Like, do you want which? I've got like a long list. Do you want them all? You believe in seeing it, you complain about Nazis. What, huh? You want to retype that again and maybe come up with something cogent and readable? By the way, make sure you guys are hitting that like button. I really do want to talk about this to as many people as possible because this is the biggest breaking news story of this year, even topping the Renee Good story, and not nearly enough people are talking about it. But you can change that by hitting the like button. Even if you fucking hate me, whatever, dude, just hit the like button. Get more people in here arguing against my ass. Good thing facts don't have feelings. It is indeed. It is very indeed a good thing. That is why transgender people are recognized as real and valid by the scientific community. As it turns out. Don't let this make y'all forget about Renee Good. Yeah, you can't forget about Renee Good either, but this is another fucking really pertinent example. We need to not forget about Renee Good because we need to be looking at this as we need to be looking at all of these deaths as additions to a cumulative record that will be examined at the end of the Trump regime. Just like the Nuremberg trials happened after the fall of Nazi Germany, there will be an accounting for fascists that were operating on American soil. Hilarious, the people are so mad that you're mad they're your top 3 fans. Oh, dude, that is how, like, literally, that is how this chat works. The top 3 people are always the people that are talking the most shit. It's great. It's really wonderful. Renee didn't deserve to die, but Charlie Kirk did. No, I don't think either one of them deserved to die. No, actually. Although I did say something edgy the other day where I kind of did like a little rhetorical experiment and said, okay, well, if you guys think it was perfectly fine for Renee Good to die and you've got no empathy for her, let's see how little you think of empathy here in a second. And then I said something like, Charlie Kirk deserved to die. And then I watched conservatives mauled in my chat for a few minutes while they had this really hypocritical response to a demagogue they like dying versus an American citizen they didn't know dying. Apparently, if your favorite little philosophy daddy dies at the end of a rifle on a public stage, that's a horrible tragedy and we all need to be worried about it. But if a woman dies shot dead in the face by a federal agent on the streets as she's trying to drive away from him, that is apparently not a tragedy. It's amazing how much empathy people have for hateful fearmongers like Charlie Kirk, and how little they have for American citizens trying to do their fucking duty as afforded them by the First Amendment, like Renee Good. Charlie didn't try and run down a federal agent doing his job, moron. As it turns out, neither did Renee Good. If you actually watch that video, you can see her turning the wheel away from the officer. I know MAGA doesn't like to confront reality because it's really difficult for you guys, but you need to in this instance because there will be an accounting at the end of the Trump regime, and there will be an end to the Trump regime. Nazi Germany only lasted 12 years. The Confederate States of America only lasted 7 or 8 years. You guys need to understand and get it through your pieces of shit heads that you are not the fucking dominant factor in America. You are a small minority of people that the vast majority of human beings in this country would gladly disenfranchise if we weren't afraid of the democratic implications later on down the road. Shut the actual fuck up, join the forces of the people, start opposing ICE, or consider yourself verboten. Consider yourself a pariah among Americans. You will be. That's why there's 60 people in your stream, right? Want to check those numbers again real quick, bitch? She ran into an ICE agent? No, an ICE agent placed themselves in front of her vehicle in order to give themselves carte blanche to shoot her in the face for no reason. That's what actually happened. Sorry, I know you want me to not believe my lying ears. I know you want me to not believe my lying eyes, but as it turns out, I've got eyes that work and ears that work, and I'm going to continue to use them to oppose your fascist administration and those of you who support it. I'm confused. Are you against MAGA? Yeah, I mean, like, I kind of think you have to be in order to be a good person at this point. Like, honestly. Whatever. Before, like, the events of the last 8 months, I would have said, you know, like, whatever. I mean, I think you can be, like, pro-Trump and be a good person. But at this point, you could have voted Trump, right, and still be a good person because there's plenty of people who have voted Trump and are against him now. That number is growing every day. But I feel like people that are at this point still ardently pro-MAGA are some of the dumbest and most unreachable people on the planet, and I oppose them completely because they want to build a country that is fundamentally unworkable for all the rest of us. Thank you for finally getting rid of that fucking moron that wants to spam the same thing every fucking 5 seconds. God damn, I hate idiots. I can't wait to see what kind of mental gymnastics conservative cucks will try to justify this. They will literally say whatever they have to. I've already seen the narrative being spun. I've already seen people saying, well, he had a gun. So what? We got the Second Amendment, bitch. If this was the Biden administration and some federal official that Biden had sent out against a conservative protest had shot somebody that was carrying a firearm, you guys would be defending it. Dude, when people got got tear gas shot at them or rubber bullets shot at them during January 6th, you guys were so ready to defend them, despite the fact that all of them were armed, despite the fact that so fucking many of them were armed. You guys were willing to defend that. Why? Why? Because hypocrisy is the game. Because there is no internal consistency. There's no need for there to be internal consistency. What there is need for is deference to Trump. If you can manage that very low bar, you can do any manner of criminal behavior. Be willing to suck the dick of the Trump administration, be willing to advance their interests, and you can get away with murder in this country. Literally, I'm not kidding, actual murder. Just look at the fucking killers of Renee Good and, what was his name? The dude who just died earlier today. Oh my god, it just escaped me about as I was soon to say it. Whatever. Be that guy. Just look at the people who killed those people. They're still operating. They're still ICE agents. They're still Border Patrol people. So what is going to happen to these people? Well, eventually the tides will shift and there will be a second Nuremberg. But for now, I guess they're going to continue to be given impunity, which means that more of us need to hit the streets. More of us need to hit the streets with cameras. More of us need to hit the streets with signs. And we need to stay out there until our fucking demands are met. Until Trump decides to end this fucking fascist takeover of his country, or until some other country decides to invade the country and take our leader out, honestly. Whichever one happens, at this point, I would be satisfied with either one. I would be happy with, honestly, I'm not kidding. I would rather China come and like take over the like U.S. federal government than Donald Trump be continued to allow to run it. Because at least China's going to build high-speed rail, you know? At least China is not going to like care about deporting every Mexican out of America because they don't have some kind of like American nationalism running through their veins to preserve. At least China is not going to like send Gestapo thugs throughout our streets to like crush any anti-American dissent, you know? I'm not saying it would be preferable. There are certainly changes to our lives that would happen that we wouldn't like as a result of that. But would it be better than American citizens being killed openly in the street by their own government? At this point, I kind of think it might be. And that's a scary goddamn thought. Yeah, no misinformation in chat. Good did not put herself in harm's way unintentionally or intentionally. Yeah, exactly. The Trump shooter wasn't even left wing. That's why the Trump shooting never gets brought up anymore. Because it's ideologically inconvenient for them. China is absolutely extremely nationalist. What kind of, yeah, they're nationalists, but they're not American nationalists, which is the like that's the justification that's being used to authorize these mass deportments. China would have no reason to do that. If China decided to take over the American government, number one, they probably would not change all that much about how America works because it's kind of like like if China could just economically control us completely and control our military and make us a non-threat by subjugation in that fashion, I don't see why they would choose to implement, like if you look at what they've done to places like Africa, it's not like China comes there and decides like, okay, now you have to have all these laws and all these restrictions and all these social things. No, they pretty much let you whatever the, you know what's funny? It's actually China's like kind of like the Roman Empire in this regard. They pretty much let you preserve whatever local customs and like political machinations you've got, unless you're part of what they consider to be the original Chinese mainland. But like for their colonies and their satellite states, I mean, I doubt very much that we would even see like a change to our constitution. We would probably just see it rewritten. To make it clear that the power structure is now a unified one, you know? I don't know, man. I just think that, like, I'm not saying I actually want that to happen. I'm just saying that at this point, drastic measures are needed. Drastic measures are needed. I'm not trying to say, China, please invade us, okay? That's not my point. I'm not saying that life would get better under China. What I'm saying is that life might not be going as badly as quickly if almost any other condition was present at the top. If we were taken over by another government, if you would have to fucking give me a horrible example, like Saudi Arabia takes us over. Okay, yeah, that would be worse than Donald Trump. Okay, I agree. Saudi Arabia, maybe. Iran, okay, yeah, sure. Iraq, Israel, yeah, one of those places. Yeah, I get it, okay, but there are lots of countries out there that if they took over, I would be like, thank goodness. At this point, I would love it if the UK would take us back. At this point, I'd fucking, I'm ready for the king again. King Charles, where you at? No, I'm kidding. My point is that fucking shit is fucked up here in America. Nobody seems to realize it on a deep enough level, like to make us do what is actually necessary, which is to take to the streets until our fucking demands are met. I don't know what is so hard for people to grasp about that. I don't know if that kind of thing is just hard to let pop off in the middle of a snowstorm. But that is ultimately what we need. I'm insane. Yes, I am very insane. That is true. Our president is literally a few months from his deathbed. What are we doing, bro? What are we doing? Watching the slow but sure destruction of the American empire at the hands of a fucking ancient despot. There already is civil unrest, but I don't think there would be a big civil war. I think it would just be tiny revolutions that the police / whatever authority would take care of. No, that's not what's going to happen, dude. The problem is like the dividing lines that are coming, that are like being drawn right now, is between like like the National Guard and the U.S. military and federal agencies. Like the Minnesota National Guard has indicated that even if they were deployed and even if they were federalized, they would be acting in defense of the people of Minnesota, not in defense of the ICE agents, but in defense of the people of Minnesota. Um, the same kind of assurances have honestly been made out of a number of National Guard detachments. So it's kind of starting to look like what might actually happen is a civil war based less on geography and more based on ideology, as these different states and probably cities with more left. I mean, maybe you're right, maybe they are revolutions, but I think that they're going to involve the cooperation in a lot of cases of the local police. I don't situate like okay, I don't know how to tell you this. It has been 150 years since we have seen conditions like this. I don't know how else to tell you this. It has been easily 175 years since we've seen conditions like this. Conditions where individual cities are resisting to so great a point that there is an active division the between the troops and the manpower of the federal government and the people at the local level, and they're in active opposition to each other. Like, this is what created the first American Civil War. I'm just laughing from Europe. Yeah, shut up. Whatever, of course you are. You have a question? Well, hit me with it. By the way, if you want to make sure your question or comment gets read or answered, anybody out there, consider sending a super chat or a cash app donation. You can find that in the description below. Either way helps immensely. This is an audience-funded channel, and you guys are what makes it possible. So I appreciate it a ton. And if you send one of those, you get your message read, which is the best way to do it, honestly. It's just luck of the draw otherwise, you know? Most civil wars are divided by ideology. The U.S. Civil War was very unique in that it was split by regions. Yeah, 100%. And it's also interesting because the U.S. Civil War was also kind of split by ideology as well. But it's an interesting example of ideology evolving due to geography, right? At least that's how I interpret it. Agriculture is way more tenable, and there's way more room for it in the South versus the Northeast, where there's just like there's more topographical relief, there's more variation in the terrain, and it makes it a little harder to farm vast swaths of land and vast tracts of land. You can still do it, there's still people that do, but it's not as feasible. And like, in addition, by the like 25 or 50 years before the Civil War, it had already become like a thing where there was like pretty much abundant land in the South and not a whole lot of land left in the Northeast because people had been building there for like 200 years or so. And those influences, which were initially created by political conditions, ended up creating like geographical political distinctions. It's just an interesting thing to think about, in my opinion. The revolution started because Americans refused British tax. It wasn't necessarily ideological. I was talking about the American Civil War. I'm sick as fuck, bro. Me too, Riley. I'm sick as a dog. I'm going through transition, yes. Yeah, I came out as trans in 2020, and I've been living as a trans woman ever since. Do. I wish we weren't sick, Riley. I wish we weren't sick. By the way, we do have a content goal going. I fucking feel like we don't ever get these funded anymore, but you know what? Here's to trying. If by this Sunday evening, so tomorrow evening, you guys don't have a lot of time. I don't expect us to really get there. But if by tomorrow evening we've made another $20, we're going to take a look at two old school lol cows that didn't get enough love back in the classic DP era, and they weren't on the old DFF Adversaries of Old show. So I want to take a fucking look at them. $20 more, and we're going to take a look at them on a desktop stream. You can watch it either vertically or on your or in the desktop mode. Either way will be available on the channel at the same time. And if we make $120 more, we're going to do a fucking political compass test. Yeah, one of those. Yeah, I know what it's called, okay? No, but seriously, we're going to do one of those. It's going to be fun. You'll finally get to know exactly where I land on one of those things. And it's been 5 or 6 years since I've done one, so it's probably a good time to recheck it. All that shilling out of the way, let's see what else I've got on here. Sorry, but I haven't seen the news. What happened? A U.S. citizen was executed in broad daylight by Customs and Border Patrol agents who were already restraining him, who had already disarmed him, and who continued to fire after he was clearly dead. I will repeat that again. A United States citizen, an American white man, fucking VA nurse, I think, he literally was executed dead on the street by Customs and Border Patrol agents who had already disarmed him and who were already in the process of restraining him. It was like a 4-on-1. I said it already, but as the world's leading authority and dick and a pussy, none of us are prepared for what's going to happen in the country this year. Yeah, none of us are prepared. No one is ready. Reggie has long said that his body is ready, but he better not say it this year because it's not. So exactly the same thing that's been happening. Why is anyone surprised at this point? It's ice. We have to avoid that kind of reaction, man. You have to react every single time this happens with equal fervor, with equal anger. We cannot let this become the new normal. In my opinion, maybe some people feel differently about that. I'm not necessarily surprised, but I'm not surprised when the cops or federal agency kills anybody because I'm a fucking anarchist. I recognize the weakness of these institutions ultimately, and I've seen the problems of them for years. Honestly, I was radicalized in 2020, and ever since then, I've kept much more of an eye on it. But even before then, for I'd say since I was probably 16, I've considered myself a lefty, and like I said, I considered myself pretty radicalized in 2020 after seeing the amount of literally heinous violence that cops were willing to engage in against protesters. Federal agents, by the way, were also engaging in the same kind of violence at the same time. But we forgot about it all, and this is another reminding event. This is another catalyzing event, a fulcrum which, if used properly, can perhaps inspire the American people to the action that is necessary if we're ever going to see an end to this kind of cruelty out of the powers that be. Stop protesting illegal immigration. Very simple. You don't have a right to tell me what to protest or not protest. We have a First Amendment right to freedom of speech and freedom of freedom to assemble, freedom to peaceably assemble. And every fucking protester that has been killed by ICE has literally been attempting to do just that, or even worse, has been an observer of a protest. The guy who was killed today wasn't even protesting. He was an observer. He was literally filming. Didn't have his gun in his hands or anywhere near his hands when he was killed, and in fact had been disarmed at the time when the shots were fired. But you're going to defend it because you are more worried about an illegal immigrant somewhere than you are about an American citizen losing their life to a federal agent. You're a pig. You're a dog. You're worse than a dog. You're a worm. You're a worm and you're a Nazi. And the Nuremberg trials can't come soon enough. I've been angry for far too long at this shit. I find it quite honestly ridiculous. The media only notice it when it's a white person dying in broad daylight. No, I hate that too. Trust me, I hate that too. Because I've been fucking pointing it out for fucking years. Oh, man. It's fucking dog shit. Although it's not true that the media only notices it when it's a white person. I mean, George Floyd wasn't white. I think a more appropriate statement might be that, at least for me, I get mad that the media only seems to notice when it becomes valuable enough for them as a news story. You know, like and a lot of times that ends up being some kind of matrix that figures out like exactly what it ends up like. What's the word I'm looking for? Not matrix. It's oh, I can't think of it. There's some kind of mathy word that means like you take a bunch of different things and you put them together, and this is you spits out a number, right? But um, if you're going to have the media notice a black person being extrajudicially, horrible word, extrajudiciously killed, it's going to have to be really salacious, right? Like George Floyd was literally executed on the sidewalk with a knee to the back of the neck. You don't get much more salacious than that. The media couldn't ignore that because Twitter, Reddit, and everybody else couldn't ignore it. The streets couldn't ignore it. So the news media had to talk about it. In this instance, not only is the action being committed just egregiously disgusting, but it's also, like you said, a white person, a white male, no less, a white male VA nurse, no less. You know, so this is like we're talking about a pillar of the community whose only interaction with the police before was traffic tickets. Oh, and he's straight. Yeah, so we're talking about a straight white guy. Of course, it's going to get more attention from the media. And yeah, that should piss you off at least a little bit. But I don't think it should distract from the fact that an American citizen, just like Renee Good, just like the dozens of American citizens who've been maimed or killed by ICE and other federal agencies over the years, another American citizen has lost their hands. I'm sorry, lost their lives at the hands of a federal agency with no regard for human life. We cannot let his race distract us from that fact. We cannot let the fact that he's just like in fact, I think it's more important that it's a normal guy because it shows people that it's not like it. And I hate that it's this way, right? I hate it. 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 I hate it so much. But think about it this way, right? This is going to cause certain people in MAGA to reconsider because this whole time they've assumed that it's just gays and weirdos and black people and Mexicans getting rounded up and fucked with by ICE. But this is a regular old white dude, pillar of his community. What are they going to think about him dying at the hands of federal agents? You know, like there's a good chance that it makes them more angry than Renee Good did. Charlie Kirky. I just popped a perky. Holy shit, that's the fucking beginnings of a good rap you've got there. The media has been covering Minnesota, and they've been protesting out here before Renee Good even died. Yeah, I know. They're already saying he had a gun. He did have a gun, but it's not illegal to have a gun in this country, and he didn't have his gun on him when he was shot. He got disarmed, and then the Customs and Border Patrol or ICE officer, whichever one it was that grabbed the gun off of him, yells, gun, which is fucking stupid and not the way you're trained in that kind of situation. Like, I can't imagine it differs. I was a CO for a while. I can't imagine it differs that much. You're like, that kind of thing is reserved for when you don't know that there is a weapon in play and the weapon is like suddenly introduced into play. Okay. And even then it's really not the best way to respond because it almost always causes a panic response. But if you like take something, it's much better to say disarmed or something like that, or I got his gun or something like that. You're not just supposed to yell gun. That's so fucking vague. What if those ICE officers hadn't known what or who was yelling that and just decided to start firing at random people, whoever was standing around on the street? So a complete disregard for protocol, probably because this is the hardest these dudes have ever been worked in their lives. Some of these dudes have been with the agencies that they work for 8 years, but in previous years, their job has mostly been hanging out at fucking checkpoints and occasionally patrolling the border for gangs of immigrants that are being fucking ferried over by coyotes and cartel people. You know, like they're doing a job that is very specific in scope and that does not involve a whole lot of like crowd control or direct oversight by journalists and shit. And now they're doing this shit that they're not equipped for, haven't trained for, and haven't really ever experienced in their lives. And it's getting people killed. And they're also being given just outright homicidal directives and outright unconstitutional directives. And they're choosing to carry them out, making them an evil, repugnant organization which needs to be dismantled and disbanded. And before anyone tells me, oh my God, we've had ICE forever, shut up. No, we haven't. ICE is a creation of the fucking Patriot Act. I want to try and organize a protest where I am, but I doubt it'll be successful. But when we had BLM protesters, the protests were threatened and things such as that might spark something widely, though. Yeah, do it, please do it. I don't care if you live in a small town. Unless you live in the fucking bumfuck country and there's just no feasible way for you to do it, please do it. America needs to see. Everyone in America needs to see this, because there are still, despite how, like, those of us who are politically, like, we think about this shit and we're on the treadmill of the news, we know, right? We know what's been going on. But there are lots of Americans yet who just haven't really paid much attention, because there are plenty of people who decided to check out a news at this point or another point, or just never really got into it. But, like, this shit is going to affect them. This shit is going to make their lives hard. People are not going to... People, like, we need to raise awareness. Like, frankly, we need to raise awareness and make people at least start looking into this shit, because people will start to join these protests in larger numbers the more they see them happening. The more they see them out there, the more encouragement there is for them to join them. Like, does that make sense? It's very fucking hard to start a protest. You're right. It's very hard to get 2 or 3 people out together to agree with you to go out and do something. But you know what? 2 or 3 people go out there, right? Maybe you're just 2 people, and 2 more join you in your 4, and then 4 more join you in your 8, and then 8 more join you in your 16, and then 16 more people join you in your 32 people, and then 32 people more join you, and now you're 64 people fighting for a better world. If 64 people join you after that, you're 114, you're 108, what is it? 60, you're 128 people fighting for a better world. This starts small and gets big by exponents. I feel like that this is what the admin want. They're gonna fucking institute that whether we protest or not. They are going to institute that whether we protest or not. Guys, I've said this before, but I'm going to tell you again. I want you all to look into something, and I want you all to keep it in your brain over the next year. And I'm not joking. The Jews who fought back during the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising had a higher rate of survival than those who went along with the Nazis. I will repeat that once again. The Jews who fought back during the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising had a higher rate of survival than those who went along with it. The Jews who fought back during the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising had a higher rate of survival than those who went along with it. They're not going to listen. They don't care. They just want more control. They're going to have to listen. If enough businesses shut down because there's not enough employees and there's too much fucking protesting in the streets to make it feasible, if we manage to make enough economic damage real in this country by our protest action, they will. They will. I don't care how out of control you think Trump is. Somebody in his fucking... Literally, you think they're all in lockstep right now, but that's because they're all making money. The reason the Democrats aren't hardly fighting back that much is because they're still fucking rich and fat and happy. The rest of us ain't, and they ain't figured that out yet. They need to be made to come to account to that, but then they will. And the only way we can do that is direct economic intervention. Stop going to work and start protesting. I'm not kidding. Stop going to work and start protesting. All of us, everyone. Like, if you've got some kind of self-employment that allows you to work and protest, that's better. That's the best thing ever. But we need to fucking stop the engine of capitalism for them to understand, because money is what runs this country. Trump does not run this country. And money right now is perfectly okay with letting Trump use us as fucking authoritarian sandbox as long as the dollars keep flowing. Stop the dollars. Cut off the flow. Rice and beans. Stop buying anything you ain't gotta buy. No more consumerism until our needs are met. And no more fucking work to the best extent that we can until our needs are met. This is the peaceful option. This is the option that involves the least people dying and the most people achieving their goals. The other option is armed revolution, and I can't advocate for that on YouTube. Sorry. But those are the two outcomes to situations like this, historically. I'm not saying that that's right, that that's virtuous, or that that's good. I'm just saying, historically, these are the two outcomes we face. We unite, we take to the streets in demand of our needs, or we will be forced to fight a bloody war against, X. And one of us is going to come out on top. And one of us is going to be crushed underhand. And historically, those have not usually gone well for the proletariat. Just saying. We tend to have more success with peaceful uprisings. Yes, dude, fucking big ups to the Black Panthers. Big ups to the Black Panthers. Yep. Yeah, I'm so fucking glad to see the Panthers active again. I have, and I'm so fucking happy. If you were on top of anything, it would crumble beneath your weight. Oh, you're so funny. You're so hilarious. Make sure you guys hit that like button, by the way. I can't believe we're sitting at 58 viewers, but only 19 likes. What's up, Aria? I see you. Hi, Aria. Yeah. I'm going to ease restrictions a little bit to make things, maybe a little more active. I walk and talk like a field hand, but the boots I'm wearing cost $3,000. I write songs about riding tractors from the comfort of a private jet. I could sing in Mandarin, you'd still know I'm pandering. A Bud Light with the logo facing out. Hear that subtle mandolin? That's textbook pandering. Yay, I get to ban more idiots. Yay! I'm so confused as to why they targeted Antifa. Why would you target an anti-Nazi organization that makes you look like the Nazis? Well, I got news for you. As it turns out, I get the distinct impression they're okay with the Nazi comparison. Organ. You're trying to say organization, so that's spelled ORGANIZ organ. So let me see. ORGANIZATION. Yeah, there you go. Organization. Yeah. Yeah, it can also be spelled with an S instead of a Z. Very true. I think it's snowing again, y'all. Here, let me see. Yeah, it's either snowing again or it's raining. Freezing rain. Winter Storm Fern is here, folks, and it is fucking freezing the bejeebus off of everybody. You know, there's something kind of romantic about getting snowed in. I don't know if any of you guys feel like that. But as long as, like, you're not, as long as things don't get too bad, being snowed in for a while can be kind of fun. Gonna hold your hand when I tell you this. Yeah, exactly. It's not snowing where I am. You got my hopes up? Well, it's fucking snowing where I'm at, but I'm in the middle of the South, so we're getting a bad snowstorm. How do you think they will get away with disarming him first and killing him? Oh, how do I think they will get away with disarming him first and killing him? Fiat? How are they going to get away with it? Honestly, Matt, a year ago, I would have had to come up with, like, a path. I would have had to say, let me look at it from that standpoint, okay? But then I'll add a caveat at the end, okay? So let's put this in a vacuum and say everything else surrounding this situation wasn't there necessarily. How would they justify this in a world pre-Trump's second administration? They would probably say that the suspect has a secondary weapon that is unseen in the video that he was able to reach and grasp with his hand after the first weapon that we see getting disarmed is taken away. They might also say another good thing that they could possibly claim, depending on the extent of the footage that they had, is they could claim that the victim got a hold of one of the officer's guns, right? So these are the justifications that they might have pulled out way back when, right? At this point, they don't need to do any of that. At this point, they just need one brazen lie. And I can already tell you what they're doing to justify it. They're saying, oh, well, he had a gun, and he approached the officers with the gun. They're just outright lying about the situation. They're making it seem like he approached the officers, gun drawn, with the intent to do them harm, when in fact he had his phone in his hands and was actually attempting to help one of the women he was there with, because they were getting pepper sprayed, and he was trying to help her find shelter and safety on the sidewalk. When he, for assisting her and I guess getting too close to ICE, was executed, beaten by 4 ICE officers or Customs and Border Patrol. It's not really sure. It's not really 100% certain exactly who all was there in terms of the federal agency deployment. Beaten on the ground for like 30 seconds and then just shot dead on the street. And Stephen Miller and the spokespeople for DHS are literally just claiming, outright lying about the video. Like literally they're just lying about what happened. Downright lying about it. So they're not trying to build some elaborate narrative. They're not trying to rely on the plausible deniability of the Obama administration or the Biden administration or even the first Trump administration. They're not trying to do any of the old tricks of American fascism that we've become so familiar with. They are just downright lying about what happened. Outright, flatly lying about what happened. For all we know, the ICE agent shot his own finger off with how idiotic they are, but bit off? Yeah, don't know about that. Wait, what? What? What is the claim here? This is all really fresh, so I don't know when I saw someone say the ICE agent took it, then fired a shot in the air to trigger the rest of the ICE agents into shooting him. Someone say the ICE agent in gray took it, then fired a shot in the air. I didn't see that in the video, but I will tell you, I've noticed a fucking tactic in a lot of these videos. I've noticed a fucking tactic that these ICE people will do a lot of times whenever they are trying to get away with doing some illegal shit. What in the fuck? I'll send you a screenshot. What the fuck? Another leftist moron getting what they asked for. You have to be a particularly repugnant brand of Nazi to even attempt to justify the clearly unjustified use of force that we saw in Minnesota today. I don't take you seriously. Nobody else does either. And you better fucking hope that your online activity is never traced to your real name. Because there will be a secondary Nuremberg trials, and people who aided and abetted the Trump administration and their attempts to illegally invade blue cities and blue states will be held accountable. And every single one of them that's sentenced to be hanged, I'll say, another rightist moron getting what they asked for. Christine Holmes said it during the presser as well. So what? Prison guards get injuries like that all the fucking time, and they don't kill the inmates involved. Okay, so the dude bit his finger off. Who the fuck cares? That does not justify that kind of use of force against a restrained man. A disarmed, restrained individual should not be met with armed force unless it is very fucking clear that they are imminently about to obtain a weapon. I was a correctional officer. I had to go through this kind of training to do that job. Your admins blocked me for a question. You probably didn't get blocked for a question, and if you did, I'm willing to bet that it was pretty garbage. But let me look at your activity. Was it on this account, or was this different? No. Okay, so this clear. Yeah, joined 2 minutes ago. Yeah. I was a correctional officer as well. Then you should know that this was not an authorized use of force. His gun was taken off of him. How do you justify that? He was on the ground, those officers, and you keep the one that's got him on the... And you... I don't even feel like I need to explain all the mechanics of this, but in case you don't know, okay, so what they should have done, right, after you got him disarmed, back off at least 2 of those guys, keep one of them to maintain some level of control over the individual on the ground, and then whoever's closest to the suspect's arms is going to be the one who's going to be putting them up in cuffs, and at that point, set them up, help them up to their feet. Pretty standard shit. Where in your fucking training were you told that it was a good idea to shoot someone who had been disarmed and was actively being restrained by 4 officers? I just want you to understand I'm not a bad actor. Just saying if you can get them to unblock my account. No, I can't. It probably just was a timeout, but I don't know what your account was. I do unbans on this channel pretty fairly regularly, though, and it'll get unbanned soon enough. You know? Or are you somebody who's always in the chat? Because if so, I can look tonight. If you're somebody who's always in the chat and you want your main unbanned, but if you're somebody who just came in tonight, you can chat on this one for a while. It'll be fine. It'll be chill. I think me paying money should be enough to show that I'm not a bad actor. I didn't say you were. I'm asking you questions. I'm asking you, like, how do you stand on this shit? Do you think that this was a justified use of force? If you don't, then fine. We've got no disagreement. I mean, maybe we have a disagreement over the matter of immigration or something. I don't know. But, like, I just want to know how you feel about this use of force with you having been a CO. Oh, my God. Oh, my fucking God. I'm going to have to look at so many messages that, no, I can't unblock your account right now. I'm sorry. I can't. If one of my mods wants to go find it, they can do it, but Riley, do you remember what they were asking? This is so tedious. I know you're not a bad person. It's just like, I just really wish you'd retype it. I know it's an inconvenience, but damn, I can't. You know, like I've only got access to a limited amount of chat scroll back space, you know? And it's incredibly hard for me to read individual messages to people that got banned. Oh, man. Oh, shit. Hey, Phoebe, how you guys holding up during this Snowmageddon? Well, I thought we were doing okay, but I think I just lost power, so... Well, I guess we'll see. Let's see if I can modify a couple things and get power back on. Aha! I didn't lose power. I just tripped the power control, or the circuit breaker. I've got a surge protector, and it's got like a built-in circuit breaker. Hey, Phoebe, how you guys holding up during the Snowmageddon? We are beginning to feel a lot like Christmas, I'll tell you that much. There's a venison stew waiting in the house whenever I get done. Probably going to make me a grilled cheese to go with that. That'll be delicious. Winter storm, Fern. Honestly, you know what? I like a winter storm. My house has gas heat, so we're probably not even that in danger from it. The biggest danger for us of this thing is our pipes bursting. But because we live in a trailer and a lot of the infrastructure on this trailer is DIY, like, honestly, anything that does break, we can pretty easily fix ourselves. You know, like, it might be a little bit costly or something. It might, you know, hurt our wallets, but, you know, like, because we've lived this way for so long and I come from such a, like, self-deterministic family or whatever you'd call it, I'm not that worried about it, even if it does happen. I don't think any of our internal house pipes will burst, which would be a bigger problem. Plus, we live in a trailer, and one of the good things about trailers is that because you just have this like super easily accessible void space down below, you can just run every single one of the pipes under the floor, you know? And there's no second story to worry about or weird plumbing situations, you know? There's just pipes under the floor running basically along the same lines. One big supply line for both bathrooms, you know. Where'd I go? What? Am I gone? I did indeed. Am I here? Can you guys see me? When have the protests not been peaceful besides 3-ish incidents that will never amount the amounts of Yeah, no, literally, not only that, but riots are the language of the unheard. If you don't want to riot, maybe don't allow your society to progress to the point where people want to riot. I don't know, man. My brother just said I'm his goat for watching you. Huh? You're what? Cool, I guess. I think. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. Oh. Well, I think things have petered out, folks. Have things petered out well and truly? Have we done as much as we can do? I hate when folks act like intolerance to abuse and protests have to be presented palatable to make a change. Yeah, because it's completely untrue. The only reason why Martin Luther King Jr.'s tactics were so effective were because of the tactics of people like the Black Panthers and the Church of Islam. It's just the truth. Sorry. It's just like in the American Indian movement and shit, you know? Like, Leonard Peltier walked so Martin Luther King could run. Phoebe, get your admins in check. Okay, let's have a fucking meeting here real quick, everybody. We don't ban all the trolls. We all get that, right? Some people like to stir shit. Unfortunately or fortunately for me, some of those people are my regular audience. And for the preservation of my channel's sanctity, as well as my income stream, I would appreciate it if we could all agree to be a little bit more relaxed with the ban policy. This doesn't apply, of course, to spam, but if someone's asking a somewhat, might be possibly good faith question, or even a shitty question, and they're reposting it every so often, that's fine. Obviously, the Jesus loves yous and the fucking just spamming shit. Okay, all right, I get that. But I feel like we have gotten a bit tight on the ban policy, and I feel like it has resulted in a bit of a restrictive environment. So if we could all of us agree, those of us who've got the power to time out and ban, to be a little less restrictive, we'll see how that plays out. Riley just likes to troll people with timeouts. I mean, Riley is, kind of known for that around here. It's not that Riley is intolerant. Riley just likes to troll people with the timeouts. They get a little carried away with it. Can I ask where the fuck the punks and goths have been during this? I find it genuinely outrageous that the people inspired by those who changed the world won't stand up for what's happening now. Well, lots of the punks and goths have been at these protests, like, at least from what I can tell. But I hate to tell you this, the punk and goth thing is largely an aesthetic that comes and goes with time. A lot of the same people you saw wearing punk and goth vests and like wearing goth outfits and punk vests in 2020 and 2021 are now wearing like cottagecore outfits or, you know, clothes of the 80s or Goodwill hand-me-downs or whatever, right? It's a thing that comes and goes with time. Like, I have a patch vest that I was wearing yesterday, and I could not convince people to donate enough to have me reveal it. You know, I just had the very top of it sticking out. And, like, if you're smart, you could tell what was going on. But, you know, and I brought it up several times, and, you know, it's just not compelling. People, like, are not that fascinated with the aesthetic. Until some kind of big cultural thing. Usually it happens when some because there are some people like me, I consider myself kind of like, okay, like look, where have the goths and punks been at during this? Bitch, I'm right here. I've been talking about this shit. You know? I consider myself that every day of the year, every fucking minute of the day. And it is usually someone like that that ends up being a person who I'm not saying I would ever be that person. I'm just saying that there are people who consider themselves like punk to the core, goth to the core, or whatever, alternative people that end up restarting those aesthetics, interestingly enough, usually by a big act of social solidarity. It was the tremendous work of punks on the street in places like Portland that really brought the punk aesthetic back into vogue in late 2020 and 2021. What about every hour of the day? Well, I alternate, you see. I'm neutral in the whole situation. It doesn't help that the DHS is posting pictures they found on Reddit 5 days ago. Yeah, it doesn't help, right? You know, it's just like that's the thing, man. I feel like, okay, at least you're neutral. At least I can tolerate that because, you know, like at least you're not pro the Nazi org. You might even take umbrage with me calling them a Nazi org. And listen, you know, like I would have said, well, you know, I might have jokingly said in front of lefties that, yeah, DHS is a totally fucking Nazi org. Um, in prior years, but it kind of would have been a little bit tongue in cheek, with the understanding that American institutions are stronger and less prone to corruption than Nazi German institutions were, and that the comparison is ultimately a hyperbolic one. Nowadays, I don't think the comparison is hyperbolic because they're doing Nazi shit. They're literally like DHS is reposting memes, and the State Department is reposting memes with these like kind of weird like callbacks to old Nazi imagery and shit. They're doing a lot of hardcore. I don't know what else to call it. I'm sorry. I know that makes me sound like a crazy Nazi, but the reason why, or a crazy fucking, um, a crazy liberal, but like the reason why you can call them Nazis is because they're fucking acting like Nazis. And I think that they know that. I think that they're acting like that on purpose because they know they can get away with it because, well, like, you know, to their credit or to our disgrace, we fucking kind of nullified that term and its usefulness by calling everyone right of Reagan a Nazi for the longest time ever, you know, or frankly, anybody right of Biden, really. Like, I don't really think the Nazi comparisons were deserved in 2020. I don't really think the Nazi comparisons were deserved in 2018. And I was vocal about that on the social medias that I had back then. Nowadays, I do think that they're comparable. Now, I think that it makes sense because they're doing the same tactics. But how do you convince people of that? I was brutalized by police when I was 18, so I know how it can get. Yeah, I mean, it can get awful, and I just feel like it's gotten to a point now where we have allowed it to become so normalized, so regular, and we've become so passive to it that it's killing us, and it's destroying some of the most beautiful parts about America, man. America's a beautiful place full of all these different cultures, but if people can't get together and live their lives and just be at peace, like there's nothing beautiful about this country anymore. Closest I feel we've gotten was Haggis saying the bare minimum being "fuck Trump." Where the fuck are all the gore grind and mincecore bands? The grindcore crust punk, literally nothing anymore. Yeah, I mean, good question. I don't even have an argument for you. Yeah, I don't know why, like, the celebrities of those movements aren't saying more. Maybe some of them are though. I don't know. Like, I bet the folk punk people are probably up to quite a bit, but you just probably don't see a whole lot of it because exposure. I'm done with this shit. It wasn't funny or quirky back in middle school in the Call of Duty lobbies, and it ain't now. What are you talking about? Uh what? My parents were robbed once and the police blamed them for it because, well, you guys had some pot in the house, so you made yourself a target. Oh my fucking god, leave it to the cops. See, this is why I have been saying multiple times in stream, like, I've been critical of the police for years. I'm openly critical of the police, but it's gotten to a point that has been unmatched in our previous history. They say that after the war, the Nazis vanished without a trace, but battalions of fascists still dream of a master race. The history books they tell of their defeat in 45, but they all came out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died. They say the prisoner at Spandau was their symbol of defeat, whilst Hess remained in prison and the victory seemed complete. So the vision of an Aryan world would never materialize. So why did they all come out of the woodwork on the day the Nazi died? Hags have even watered down their sound to appeal to wider audiences, and they're less political now. It's about as it no one cares about the scene. Modern crust punk has no lyrics about politics anymore. Hmm. Is that actually true, or do we just perceive that to be true? Let me think here. Hmm. I think you might actually be onto something. I think there's a few exceptions I could cite, but I don't know that they would be crust punk so much as folk punk or other genres. I kind of think of Days and Days as being crust punk, but it's not like they've got a ton of political lyrics from what I remember. And certainly their most popular song is not political. My breath is straight at the medicine cabinet, a limit remedy to the aftermath of my habits. Sometimes it's the ones who try to help that hurt the most. I feel like we're playing tug of war and I'm the rope and you keep on pulling and you keep on pulling. And gonna lose my goddamn mind. I'm gonna lose my mind. I really wish people would stop physically getting into it with ice, pester from a distance, and don't block roads, or more innocent people are going to get hurt than all we see is FAFO memes and mocked. Here's my thing, Joey Fangas. That dude was not even really like trying to fuck with ice. He was trying to help that lady out. And because the ICE officers weren't done with her, I guess, because they were not done brutalizing her, he got caught up in this thing. Like, they weren't even, like, I guess they went up to them, but whatever. Like, in my opinion, you should be allowed to. Like, that's, like, cops have had to deal with it for fucking years, and I think that that's fine, and I think that that's constitutionally protected, and thank God for it. So why do we draw the line at ICE agents? That's what I don't get, you know? That's my thing. I know, he was observing. He wasn't even fucking with them. He was literally standing like a few feet away with a phone. Is that fucking with them? I don't think it is. Maybe you could make an argument that it is, but I don't think it is. Like, he didn't physically go in, he didn't punch the ice dude. Like, he didn't go in there to get in a tussle. Agree, he wasn't, but she's the what doesn't. I just feel like we cannot let them have any kind of defense for this, man. Like, regardless of the circumstances, there are still use of force guidelines that have to be followed in the interest of human safety and the rule of law. And I'm a fucking anarchist. I don't even care that much about the rule of law. But insofar as we've got a country that kind of functions, it's a good thing to look out for, you know? If you are within engagement range, you are interfering at their discretion. Once again, none of this matters because the use of force continuum was not followed and justice was not done. It doesn't matter. It flatly doesn't matter. None of this procedural shit is compelling to me because ultimately I know what my training says about incidents like that. I remember, you know. If only she had stayed home watching her children, she wouldn't have been killed. You shouldn't have to live a perfect, idyllic life according to someone else's mores for you to have a right to live. I'm sorry. Maybe if those ICE officers were at home watching their kids, if they fucking had any, maybe they wouldn't be getting harassed by people that are trying to film them. Do you play any video games? I've been playing a ton of Monster Hunter World. I am fucking addicted to that game. Although I am starting to get a little sick of it. The problem I get with video games is that I used to have a near infinite attention span when I was a kid for games. And I still do to a degree, but not nearly as much as I used to. And I feel like I don't get as much enjoyment out of them as I used to either. I still do get quite a bit of pleasure and enjoyment out of them, but I feel like I need to upgrade my PC a few times and get me a few new games to really get that sense of wonder and enjoyment back. Excuse me. You just got addicted to MH Rise? Yeah, I have not played Rise yet. I've heard it talked up quite a bit, but I haven't played it. The most American sentiments I've ever read in this chat. That is fucking saying something. I know, dude. I know. People are finding all kinds of reasons to excuse this and say, yeah, but this and this extenuating factor and this thing and that thing. And it's like, man, none of this shit matters, because if they want to preserve the notion that they are just committed to law and order, then they should have tried to achieve their fucking whatever goals they had in that moment as peacefully as possible. So okay, if this guy and this chick needed to be separated so that you could take her into custody for some kind of crime she committed, which I doubt very highly given the pattern of arrests that we've seen with ICE, right? I doubt that very highly, but assuming that was the case, okay, so that dude was not reaching for his gun. There's no evidence that he was reaching for his gun. There's no sign of that in the footage. You probably could have used verbal commands. Just be like, hey, just separate. Hey, we got to take her out. And she did this. And with your arm, if you have to, back them up, separate them, form a wall like they do at any other protest where there's somebody that they got to take in because they punched a cop or whatever. And by the way, I oppose that because, well, of my own private little anarchistic reasons. But leaving that aside, at least it's justified within the state's own framework of violence, right? At least that makes legal and logical sense from a certain standpoint. Maybe not from every person's standpoint, but you can get the common American to look at something like that happening, a protester who punches a cop getting arrested, and the people that were with her being cordoned off by a wall of cops. That kind of thing happens all the time. Could have happened today in Minnesota. Why didn't it? Because ICE has a directive from the top to kill. Because ICE has a directive from the top to be violent. Because they have a directive from the top to be horrible, unconstitutional, raving bands of bandits. MH World was great, and I was a top 32 IG player on console at one point when I was really into it. Damn, that's fucking that's cool. I don't know that I'm that good at it. I'm certainly not. There's a video going around of him or somebody on the ground having a gun out. Lots of folks are using it right now. It might be on X if you see the feeds. I doubt very much it was him. All the videos we've seen of the incident and surrounding the incident, because I don't care if he had a gun out earlier, he might have been justified in having the gun out earlier. What we know for a fact is that by the time he is on the ground, by the time he's laying on the ground, he is shot dead. And we see an ICE officer running away with a firearm that they just removed from the dude's hip in the video of him getting shot. His firearm is removed from his body before he gets shot, and then he lies there dead. If there is a gun in his hand at that point, it was planted by an ICE agent. Oh, Margot. Thank goodness. I can't believe we're only sitting at 13 viewers. I guess the algorithm just hates me tonight. That's fine, though. ICE haven't come to exactly where I am, but they've gotten up to an hour away, and it's genuinely terrifying to think about, and I want to protest it before it happens. I fully support the cause. I fully support the cause. And you should actually really fucking see if you can organize that. If you've got a friend group of like 5 people that agree with you, literally just make signs for yourselves and everything, and have like signs ready to give to people that want to join it. Because I guarantee you there are people in your community that feel the same way. Are you going to get some hate? Sure. Are you going to get some people that are saying mean things? Sure. But you know, you have a constitutionally protected right to freedom of speech and to freedom of expression, and it has never been more important to use it than now. I'm at work right now. I have no guests, and we're closing early. Nice, Margot. Hell yeah. That's a big stretch to say it was planted, but there won't be a solid or fair investigation because both tribes are so locked in. Same with Epstein files. Nothing will happen. Yeah. Well, at least we agree there. Yeah, I mean, like, whatever. I wish that you weren't looking at this as just a conflict of tribalism, because it kind of cheapens the death of a VA nurse and pillar of his community who was murdered today by ICE, but whatever. Whatever, man. I just feel like it's one of those things where we've gotten to a point where there's going to have to be some kind of big, massive armed conflict between the peoples of the United States, because there's just like people have just fucking, we're too divided. And there's civil unrest already. What will it amount to? What will there be next? Who the fuck knows? Long as people keep going to work, long as people are able to keep buying bread, nothing much is going to change. But the second one of those things goes, the rest will follow. Controversy, but if a representative up for re-election isn't for abolishing ICE, then that isn't going to cut it. That is where the bar is at. Oh, I 100% agree, Meeps. I 100% agree. Yeah, no fucking vote for any Democrat on a local, national, or state level that is unwilling to say abolish ICE. No support for any politician unwilling to abolish ICE. It's one of the newest fucking branches of the United States power structure, literally created by the fucking Patriot Act. We do not need it. We do not need it. I repeat, we do not need it. There are services that used to do the same fucking thing that ICE does. You realize that ICE is basically just another fucking, it's just another copy of CBP. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Customs and Border Patrol, they do the same exact jobs and are responsible for the same exact areas of fucking authority. Like, there's functionally no difference in how they're used or the duties that they're charged with, or their capacity as law enforcement organizations. We do not need two of them. Abolish ICE. Baseline. Divided because of the media and the people in charge. No one wants change. They just want to hate the other side so nothing ever fucking happens. We're too comfortable as a society with this bullshit. I 100% agree there. That's kind of why I feel like ultimately every one of these things is another step towards that big shift, that big change. And that's why I keep advocating for people to hit the streets, hit the fucking streets. Because the more people hit the streets, the more chance there is for us to get enough of a critical mass of people for them to actually have to take us seriously. And if it doesn't come to that, then it's going to just come to mayhem in the fucking streets. People shooting each other, people looting businesses, literally the country burning down. I don't want that. Do you want that? I don't want that. But that's literally where we're headed right now, because Trump is unwilling, completely unwilling. I shouldn't say Trump. It's really the Trump administration that is completely unwilling to reverse course on this shit. They're unwilling to reverse course on this shit, and it's making everyone miserable. It's making everyone miserable. It's making everything tense. The violence, the rhetoric is just increasingly hot and angry making. Let me see here. Is it any better? Oh shit. Last time I was here, you shut me down a lot for talking about God, but I got a different person this time, Muhammad Ali. Can you hate on him? Do you want me to hate on him, or do you want me to not hate on him? I kind of like this question. And you're a brave soul venturing into the lion's den after already being bitten once. I have to commend your bravery. Indeed, is this how humans tamed cats? Jesus Christ! Do you prefer a government agency like ICE handling immigration enforcement or the local police? Frankly, I would prefer the local police handling immigration enforcement in theory. But before we did that, I would want us to have, before we focus on immigration enforcement, I want us to focus on immigration administration. I want us to focus on immigration bureaucracy, because right now there's way too much of that and there's way too little of that. Okay, so there's way too little of it because there's way too much of it, right? So there's like way too little focus on making that better because there's way too much bureaucracy. It needs to be streamlined. It needs to be made easier. And there's no focus on making that process happen, but there's tons of focus on beefing up the immigration enforcement aspect of the immigration solution. And the fact of it is, any immigration system consists of two parts: the bureaucracy behind legal immigration and the enforcement against illegal immigration. We have focused way too hard on one and not nearly enough on the other. Meanwhile, we're just taking Greenland. I know, and like we kind of stopped talking about that, but what the fuck is happening there? Like we're apparently just going to have like sovereign territories in Greenland now? What the fuck? We've already got a military base up there, so it doesn't seem like it's that big a change, but why do we need Greenland, dude? It's just more expenditure. It's just more money being spent on behalf of the American taxpayer, at the expense of the American taxpayer, but not at our benefit. Did you drop an opinion on the protesters going into the church? Missed the stream if that's the case. Oh, the protesters going into the church. Well, yeah, I think I like that. Yeah, I think I'm okay with it. I'm pretty sure I'm okay with it, and here's the reason why. Because I'm of the opinion that ICE is at this point a criminal organization and has been for a while, and demonstrated that with the downright murder of Renee Good, who I believe was attempting to drive away from the situation as she was being commanded by some of the officers there on scene. If you've got Nazis taking over your country, I believe that you are justified in doing whatever you have to do to disrupt their meetings and hold their leaders to account. To disrupt their meetings, hold their leaders to account, and to disempower them. I think that every option is on the table if you're dealing with Nazis. It's kind of like, you remember that, have you ever watched the movie, oh, what is it called? Oh, yeah. Have you ever watched the movie The Hateful Eight? Well, you know how what is his name? Colonel Marquez or whatever. I can't remember what his rank is, but Samuel L. Jackson's character, he's talking at one point about killing slavers in the Civil War, and he says he's accused of burning a bunch of white boys in a camp, and he says, "Oh yeah, cracker, I killed my fair share. Burn them, beat them, drop a big rock on their head." And that's the exact same way I feel about Nazis. Whatever method you got to use to eliminate that threat. I stand with the Black Panthers. Did you hear did you watch the body cam footage of the cop getting hit? You can hear the truck hit him. No, what you hear is the truck going into gear and the engine revving up. Well, you know what, Edwin? If you could refute it outright, you would. The fact of it is, you don't know what that sound was any more than I do. I got my theory, you got your theory. Are we going to get a fair investigation on it? No. Do we agree that that's a problem, Edwin? Can we agree that that's a problem? No, you saying something else happened is not proof. That, like, you need to make an argument for it. Like, no, that's not what it sounds like. It has this very distinct whatever, like just saying, you wrong. Sorry, bud. I'm not compelled. Maybe that flies where you're from, but where I'm from, I'm from Missouri, the show me state. We require a little higher burden of proof than that. Internal breed. Dude, you realize internal bleed. Number one, are you. No, okay, before we even get into that, Joey, level with me here. Do you think the United States government is capable of lying? Watch it, you can hear it. It doesn't sound like a person to me. It sounds like a car, well, frankly, and not even that well-maintained car, going into gear and the engine revving up and the wheels turning and maybe a little bit of slippage. "100%. Worked for them 9 years, Intel, and helped them lie too." Okay, so what makes you think, just flatly, what makes you believe the internal bleeding thing? Like, why would you? Like, why do you just take their word for it? If the internal bleeding is so bad, why don't we have pictures of this guy's body, all damaged and bruised up? Because if he's got internal bleeding from an impact wound, then that's going to show on the surface. There's going to be surface bruising in association with that injury. Watch it when you're not high or on meds. Uh-huh. Did you see the incident with the John Moss building? I did not. Too many hospital reports where allies would call it out? What do you mean? What do you mean too many hospital reports where allies would call it out? Hospitals don't just let you check in and leave after an hour if they actually suspect dangerous internal bleeding. Yeah, that's another thing. Number one, the thing I was about to say is that fucking internal bleeding can be anything from a light surface bruise to one of your organs has burst and you're actively dying. Like, internal bleeding can be a whole lot of shit. And in fact, I think it's kind of telling that they used a vague phrase, internal bleeding, instead of subdermal hemorrhage or something like that. I love knowing a little bit of anatomy knowledge. She turned the car wheels away from me, and naturally I feared for my life. Well, Riley, what you don't understand about that incident is that lesbians actually have a bigger hitbox on their vehicle than most other mobs, right? So, with like gay men, their hitbox pretty evenly matches up with the vehicle size, but lesbians, for some reason, get like an extra 4 inches on either side of the vehicle. And he knew that just innately. He could see your wife over there. He knew their hitbox was going to be scared, man. Scared. I'm scared. I'm gonna have to get off here pretty soon to go eat my stew. If we get $20 more before tonight, then tomorrow we'll do a fucking little bit of Von Helton and J-Dub's content. I'm gonna stream later also, so don't be afraid if you think you're gonna miss me. I need to know before Super Chat. Oh no. What do you need to know? She turned the car. Well, when she said, "I'm not mad at you, dude," I knew she was bloodthirsty. Yeah, dude, I knew when she said, "I'm not mad at you, dude." Man, she wasn't even hateful, dude. I'm a hateful bitch. Whatever. Like, I'm a hateful bitch. I genuinely am. Renee Good was not. I'm not even mad at you, dude. What do you need to know, Joey Fangus? He could see the gears turning in her head. He knew in seconds that he was in danger. I know. Yeah. Must have. She wasn't even saying, "Fuck you, Nazis." I know. Like, it's not like she was like, yeah, that's what I'm saying, right, Riley? It's not like it was me out there. Whatever. I would have been giving them fucking hell verbally. And people would be able to make an easier argument for me being deserving or whatever, and maybe that's a flaw of mine, but Renee Good did not have that flaw. And it's just kind of horrifying to me the way people have blithely accepted her death as normal. Not everybody, but more people than I'd like. I wonder if there's any polling out about how people are reacting to her death at this point. You said go into where the Nazis are and harass them regarding the church, implying the regular churchgoers are Nazis. Is that your stance? No. I think the ICE leader is definitely a Nazi because I think ICE is a Nazi organization at this point because they're using Nazi tactics, right? I would be willing to call them proto-fascist or a dozen other labels that come with way less import if they weren't actively engaging in the tactics of Nazis, i.e. going door to door, killing random civilians who are quote-unquote interfering with their operations by filming them or whatever. Actively saying, we're putting you all on a list, we're collating your names and all this shit. Like, if they weren't engaging in Nazi tactics, whatever. It'd be a different it'd be a different pot of beans. But I don't think that the regular churchgoers are Nazis. In fact, I think a lot of the regular churchgoers probably really didn't have much of an idea exactly how much of an impact the pastor's work as an ICE operative was having until that day. Now, I haven't watched the videos concerning the actual action in the church or anything like that, so I have no idea as to the protesters' conduct. I can't speak for it or against it. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened in that regard. I do know that that there was an action on a church that involved going into that church and calling out the pastor for being like an ICE official. But outside of that, I don't know what else happened. I don't know if they were harassing the people in the church and yelling at them or being vicious to them or whatever. Like, whatever. If people in the church chose to react to that in a negative way, then, well, I do think that there is an incentive for people to be careful about how they handle that kind of thing, right? If you've got somebody from within the congregation that's like, hey, what the fuck? I think you should, the best way to handle that's like, hey, I understand that this is upsetting, but you guys need to hear this. You guys need to listen to this. You guys need to see how the message of Christ is being violated by this pastor. I think that that is Christ-like, actually, on top of being justified morally, in my mind. But, accosting the individual churchgoers as if they're all Nazis, no, I think that's going a bit far. I certainly don't think any average Christian in America is necessarily a Nazi. In fact, there are plenty of Nazis who aren't Christian, so. You go into a church and disrupt service, it's harassment and violates a lot of laws, including KKK Act. Yeah, but aren't you, like, do you see my argument that it's morally justified if what you're dealing with is an actual fucking Nazi organization that is, like, ostensibly, like, here's the thing, I don't think those individual fucking people were Nazis, but they, with their tithes, with their continued knowing or unknowing support of that pastor, they are effectively empowering a Nazi to continue doing so, and they may be knowingly or unknowingly be receiving Nazi messaging too. Like, who the fuck knows how fascist the messaging coming out of that preacher towards his congregation is? Maybe he runs a perfectly liberal congregation. Something tells me he probably doesn't. Something tells me that he's probably in there telling them that, by the way, he's probably in there doing something that is a complete violation of the tax-free status of churches, which I would argue makes him therefore not a church leader, but rather a political operative, and that he did not run a church and was not running a church service that day. So here's the thing. You really want to get into all the steps in this, we'll get into it. I think it hinges ultimately and most deeply on, did this preacher use his church platform to argue for politics? Because the Bible does not call you to be interested in worldly affairs. In fact, the Bible tells you to give unto Caesar what is Caesar and give unto God what is God's. The Bible is explicit about Christians not being involved in the affair. God is openly, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to remember a specific story in the Bible. Oh, yeah, okay, I remember. Okay, so, like, if you look at it, right, God is openly contemptuous of the idea of leadership in general. One could make a pretty fucking good argument that that God is a very unsatisfied anarchist. That would just happen to be able to make his own world and his own reality, because when the Israelites first asked for a leader, right? God doesn't tell them to elect one from their own number. God doesn't tell them to select one, or I think he does it. Well, no, okay, so if I remember correctly, at first God tells them, what do you need a leader for? You've got priests that can talk to me if you've got to get specifics on how you do this, that, or the other thing. And you guys have the rest figured out. Look at your lives. It's fine. What do you need a leader for? And then I think he was like, okay, well, choose one from amongst your number. And they were like, but we really want a leader, though, and we want you to pick him. We want a king. And God finally, after being harassed enough by the priests of Israel, decided to grant them a king. King Saul, I believe it was. But I might be getting that wrong. I'm probably getting that wrong. Probably not up to date on my biblical lore. I'm sure some Christian will correct me. Not morally justified at all. In fact, it's horrifying to condone, and so many of my family now need to carry in fear of their family's safety. If you do that, you're going to turn a lot of people away. What was endangering their safety about people coming into that church and calling that pastor out? Were they like waving guns in everybody's face? I think you need to carry for your safety because ICE is out there going door to door looking for brown people to arrest for no other reason than they're being in the wrong community at the wrong point in time. I think that that's why you need to be carrying. But whatever reason you're carrying, I'm just glad you are. The people begged God to have their lives controlled and their resources and wealth extracted, so God was like, oh, okay. Well, if you read the Bible, I'm pretty sure that actually is the fucking story, though. Like, God was openly contemptuous of the idea that they needed some kind of, like, royalty or something like that. And eventually, through prolonged effort, they were able to secure in themselves a divinely chosen king. That's how the story goes. It's fucking retarded. It's fucking retarded. If anything, it makes you think that God is openly contemptuous of hierarchical organization, which is just another fucking argument for the Christian anarchists, if you ask me. Then the people won their beloved gout-ridden asswad to lead the way. Yay! Yeah, literally. I guarantee you that story is only in the Bible because ancient fucking monarchs needed some kind of reason to justify to their peasants, like, hey, you guys asked for this shit way back when. Yeah. Yeah, way back when we were all in the Middle East. By the way, fun little Bible myth. Adam and Eve. Let me just ask you guys, those of you in the chat, are Adam and Eve the progenitors of all humanity? Are Adam and Eve the progenitors of all humanity? According to the logic of the Bible, those of you who are atheists and don't believe in any of this garbage need not answer. I'm asking Christians, people that believe in the Bible's bogus bullshit. When I read the Bible like in high school and I put it down, my first thought was, wow, that was really mean and retarded. Jesus did some cool things, though. Yeah. Literally. Jesus does some cool stuff. Jesus does some stuff that you really like. You really like to see, all like the whole Bible is about like human beings being horrible, God being horrible, and everything being horrible. And then you've got Jesus, who is like the one ray of light and all that. But really, damn, I wish I was smarter because I feel like I could put this in a more poignant way. But I feel like there is something that happens there that is just so interesting and ironic, maybe. None of these are the right way to put it, though. But you get this one glimmer of light in the New Testament, which is Jesus Christ. But then he is squashed out in the most awful, evil way imaginable. And he's like betrayed by one of his own people and executed by this cold system that's just working with the local leaders to preserve their fucking power. And it's just a cynical death. And he's regarded in no more esteem than a couple of thieves, right? Horrible death, horrible, degrading, awful, suffering death. And he comes back for 3 days, or comes back 3 days later, does some miracles and shit, and then descends up to heaven. Oh shit. You gotta turn the heater off again for a while, I guess. But yeah, well, anyway, I'm not getting any answers from people in chat. Maybe we don't have any Christians in chat right now. But yeah, there's this common Bible myth that Adam and Eve are the progenitors of all humanity. They're not. Adam and Eve are only ever described as if you actually read the Bible, the direct line of descendants of Adam and Eve, it leads to Jesus, ultimately. That's who it leads to. It's a genealogy of the first person to Christ, the first people, and it's also really it's implied that Adam and Eve are the first people to be created, but it's not like the language of the Bible is not exclusionary to the idea that after he created Adam and Eve, he didn't go off and create a bunch more people. And we know that he must have, if you believe the Christian mythology, right? We know that he must have, because when Cain is sent away and cast out of the family or whatever, he goes off and finds a whole city. He finds a whole city and marries some bitch from there and has kids with her and shit. And like, that wouldn't be possible unless there were literally hundreds of other people that God had created after he created Adam and Eve. Why did he only put 2 people in the Garden of Eden? Who the fuck knows? I've never understood. Dude, like, there are big, giant logical inconsistencies in the Bible that don't make a goddamn lick of sense. But when you start trying to make apologetics for it, you do start having to kind of like write fan fiction basically about it, and that fan fiction can be kind of interesting to see, because it's like interesting to think about how this world might function if it worked under those weird rules. Legit, my priest did legit bring up the same point you just did. Yeah, I mean, I'm an atheist, but I grew up super Christian, and I'm fascinated by Christianity to this day. I still think it has literary value, even if it doesn't have um, value as a philosophy or as a religion necessarily. And I wouldn't want someone to proselytize to me, but I am kind of defensive of people's right to be religious, and ultimately of their right to believe in whatever they want to believe in if it makes them feel better. I'm critical of organized religion, though. Definitely critical of that. And I think I may be broadly critical of religion as a concept. I don't think you need it, and I think it overcomplicates human life. But also, at the same time, I recognize that we have religion, and we're not going to abolish it tomorrow. And to dismantle it, you kind of have to know about it to dismantle it effectively. That's why I didn't answer. Hey, that's cool. Well, that's good. That's good. You didn't want to spoil it for anybody. Well, thank you, Joey. I appreciate that. That was good of you. Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. It's an interesting thing, but a lot of people think of the Bible a lot of people think of Adam and Eve as being the progenitors of all humanity. But anytime somebody brings, every time somebody brings you that, you can just tell them, like, nope, Cain found a whole city after he was expelled from the family of Eve and Adam. And, after he was expelled from their family, he found a whole city. So how is that possible unless there's a whole ton of other people being created after the Garden of Eden? Now, we could argue about whether it made any sense for there to be a whole city of people that are apparently never given the option, when it comes to the whole farming thing. And it's one of those interesting things, right, where as an atheist, I can't help but look at these weird inconsistencies that this brings up if you just think about it from a logical perspective, right? So, from a logical perspective, cities are only possible because we have mass agriculture. And cities have only been possible really for the last 12,000 years because it was the development of agriculture period that allowed the first cities to pop up. Cities nowadays require mass agriculture. Cities back then are more like what we'd call towns or villages now. They might have been huge. There might have been big works in them, but they were not like sprawling in the same way a modern city is, because there was just not like infrastructure for that. Like Rome is a pretty fucking huge place, but it's a city that built up over thousands of years, and even it's not as big as Los Angeles is. Hi, Phoebus. What's up, Ben? People argue about what color Jesus was, but I can confirm that Peter Parker is pretty Jewish twink. Yeah. Yeah, Catholics are the normal Christians. I'd never come across a pick-me Christian. I like all Christians the same as people. Oh, I've come across all kinds of pick-me fucking Christians. I prefer organized faith personally because you get some wacky Westboro Baptist without it. Catholic myself. Well, I would argue that Westboro Baptist Church is kind of an organized religion. Like, it's an example of highly organized religion, right? It's organized on a local scale, but it's still organized. I don't know, man. I like it when people pray in their houses. That's what I'm trying to tell. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I would love it if all American Christians could adopt the Amish model. And I think you guys would be better off for it too. I think you guys would all be better off for it. Because imagine if every member of the church once a week had to host. Now, whatever, if you're not a member of the church, you ain't got to participate in this garbage. But if you are, if you want to be a part of the church, then, once every couple of weeks, like if there's 42 people in the fucking church, then you might only have to do it once a year. But once a year, you have to host church in your house. And I bet you that would encourage people to be a lot more considerate of their neighbors and their community members and the people that were in their church, even like way more than is common now. Because now it's kind of like a 50-50 thing. Some churches are very much like that. Other churches are very like individualist and fucking tithy as fuck without doing much. Move to Utah. Come meet some pick-me Mormons. No thanks. I like the ex-Mormons more. Utah is like a factory of hot people. I'm sorry to tell you guys this. Thoughts on people calling ICE the F slur is an insult? I would be a hypocrite to say I'm against it, dude. Hell yeah. Call ICE faggots. I love it. Yep. You know what? I was going to try and be woke about it, but then I thought about it. I was like, man, they're Nazis. Call them whatever you want. Call them pigs. Call them swine. Call them whatever makes your mind happy, dude. Call them fucking bacon. Call them fucking ham. Call them faggots. I don't give a fuck. They are beyond. They are. They are. I don't know how to put it. I literally don't know how to put it. They are beyond reprobates. On Compound, we got folks do that actually. Lots of sharing worship shit, worship stuff, and we're host. Yeah. I don't know what that means, but yeah, I like that. I like that model. Every queer I've asked has agreed with that sentiment. Yeah, I don't feel like you're going to find a whole lot of disagreement, man. Especially because it's been kind of like, I mean, you're going to find eventually some liberal left, like not lefty even. You're eventually going to find some like vote blue no matter who, dem lib, that'll tell you, no, you should never use the F slur under any circumstances ever. But you're going to have to look pretty hard to find them because, man, people fucking detest dice. Someone needs to tell Trump to put his dogs on a fucking leash. I know, dude. I don't know when we're going to get some control to this fucking system that is currently, like, I don't know, trying to actively destroy the United States population. Apparently, iPhone has never heard of the word hottie. That took 3 tries. Goddamn, that's funny. Yeah, Utah is a hottie factory, though. I don't know what it is, man. You guys just got the fucking goods. You got the power! I'm mad at this revelation, but thank you. What revelation? I'm stupid and already forgot what I said. Speaking of organized religion, I could see you being adept at nun maxing. Oh my god, dude. What is nun maxing? Is that pretending to be a nun when you're not a fucking nun? What is the... what is that? I bet I could. I bet I could play a good nun. I can avoid cursing when I want to. And I've certainly got this sort of advanced vocabulary that I associate with nuns. It's not that they all talk like science nerds, but a lot of them do have a pretty adept command of the English language. American nuns, that is. I really like listening to nuns, actually. It's definitely evidence of the fact that I did not go to a Catholic school. Oh my god, it's Desi and Kyle in my chat! Woo! Yay! Sister Phoebe? Yeah, I dig it. Speaking of organized religion, nun maxing. What the fuck is nun maxing? See, like this, you know? I don't know. I don't know how to make it look like a habit. I would have to have someone help me figure it out. Because I think it's actually supposed to cover your hair too, isn't it? Just cutting to the chase and being a good Christian woman in this dystopian hellscape. Okay, I can't do that because I'm not a Christian woman. I'm an atheist. But I could get a nun costume and do like an atheist nun thing. Might even be a fun gimmick. Hi everybody, I'm a trans secular nun. I made up my own order and my own vows, and this is what I'm doing. I don't even, the more I think about this, I don't even know that it's actually a bad idea. Join our secular religion. It's a non-profit. Yeah, I like that. I like that. It's a non-profit. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna get off here so I can go enjoy some venison stew and get the heat turned back on in here. Any last donations you guys want to send in? Ooh, speaking of which, got a super chat. Go ahead and send them in, by the way. While I don't agree with church protests, small tip. Well, thank you, Joey Fangus. I appreciate the $2 a lot. And I'm sorry we don't agree about that particular thing. I mean, hey, I will say this much. I don't generally like the idea of people invading churches and disrupting service, okay? I'm not generally in support of the idea. I think in this particular case, there's a moral case to be made for it as an exception to the normal rules of social engagement. You may disagree, but I hope that despite that disagreement, we can continue to have productive conversations in the future. Look up the weed nuns. Ooh, I need to look at the weed nuns. I'll join their order. Sleep well? Oh, I ain't going to sleep. I'm just gonna go eat some venison and then probably come back on here in a couple hours. I'm gonna get the heat back on though. God bless and pray for your safety. Well, thank you. Imagine a full-length skirt that makes you look like you shuffle everywhere plus a veil. Man, I think Ben Jacobs just wants to really see me in a habit. There's a Bible story where JC did the same thing as those protesters, but he used more than his words. That's kind of the point I brought up earlier, is that I think it's actually a for them to have done, considering the nature of what that pastor was probably using his platform to do. But I don't know the nature of his sermon at the time. I don't know all the details of the incident, so I can't commentate on it fully. I just think that it's probably a good example of an action that would otherwise be condemnable that I think in this instance is excusable due to the specific extenuating circumstances surrounding the event. I think we regularly make exceptions like this, both in our morality and our legal system, and that those exceptions are oftentimes appropriate to ensure that the spirit of the law and the spirit of good of law and order is followed, even when the word of it is hard to obey. Anyway, good night, everybody. I will see you guys later.